The table is set for three, bread half-eaten, a chair pushed back, as if someone stood mid-sentence and never sat down again. The clock on the wall stopped at the exact hour the storm should have passed. This is Island Moor, December 1900. A rock in the North Atlantic, 7 miles from the nearest coast, and the last place 3 men were ever seen alive. No bodies, no struggle, no note. Just a lighthouse, its lamp gone dark for the first time in its history, and a door left unlocked, as if whoever walked through it meant to come back. They didn't. What happened in the days before the light went out is written in their own hand, in a logbook that grows stranger with every entry. A hardened sailor, weeping, a storm the mainland never recorded, a silence that swallowed 3 men whole. This is the story of what the keepers saw and what the sea has never given back. Chapter 1. The Watchman of Flannan Isles, December 1900. The North Atlantic does not forgive. 7 miles off the coast of Scotland, a rock breaks the water. Island Moor's here barren, windswept, home to nothing but seabirds and a lighthouse built to save the ships that pass this graveyard of currents. 3 men keep that light alive. James Duckett, principal keeper, 20 years in the service, a man who does not panic, a man who does not make mistakes. Thomas Marshall, younger, steady hands, new to the isolation but not to the sea. Donald MacArthur, the temporary man, called in only weeks before to cover for another keeper's illness. He should not have been there at all. 3 strangers, bound together by duty, locked inside a stone tower with no way out, no boat of their own, no telephone, no way to call for help, and no way for anyone to know something was wrong until the next supply ship arrived. That is the arrangement. That is the isolation. And on this rock, isolation is the only law that matters. The routine is brutal in its simplicity. Win the mechanism, trim the wick, log the weather, watch the sea, always watch the sea. Days blur into weeks, weeks blur into silence. But something changes in early December. The entries in the log start to shift. Ducat, the steady one, begins writing about the wind, not just recording it, but reacting to it. Words like severe appear, then tempestuous, then something stranger still. A mention of MacArthur, the hardened sailor in tears, praying, a man who has weathered 100 storms, crying in the middle of one. Why? The weather logs from the mainland tell a different story. Calm seas, no storm severe enough to explain this fear. So what were they watching out there in the dark? By December 15th, the light goes out, and when the next ship finally reaches the rock, the men are gone. Chapter 2. The Empty Tower. The relief ship. Hesperus struggles toward Island Moor on December 26th. Days late, the same violent seas that seem to explain everything and yet explain nothing. No flag rises to greet them, no answering signal. The lighthouse stands silent against a gray sky, its lamp dark for the first time in its history. Captain Jim Harvey sounds the horn, fires a flare, nothing answers but the gulls. A boy, Joseph Moore, a keeper due to rotate in, is put ashore alone. He climbs the path with a growing dread he cannot name. The gate is closed, the entrance door is closed. Inside, the clock has stopped, and the table is set for a meal never eaten. He runs, signals the ship. More men climb the rock. What they find does not look like a disaster. It looks like an interruption, as if 3 men rose mid-sentence and simply walked away. 2 oilskin coats are missing from their hooks. The third, Donald MacArthur's, still hangs in its place. A detail no one can explain. MacArthur was known as the most experienced seaman of the 3. If any man would know better than to face a storm without his coat, it was him. So why is his coat still here and he is not? The log tells its own quiet horror. Entries continue through December 13th, note the gale on the 14th, then fall silent. No sign of struggle, no blood, no note. Outside, the western landing is wrecked. an iron railing torn from its concrete base, a crane bent, ropes hurled far above the normal reach of any wave. Whatever struck this coast struck it hard. But here is the detail that unravels the simplest explanation. The damage sits nearly 200 feet above sea level. A rogue wave that size on a calm December week, the mainland logs never recorded a storm severe enough to produce? Something does not fit. Chapter 3. 3 explanations, 3 failures. Every investigation needs a villain. The sea offers itself first. Theory 1. The wave. A freak wave, monstrous and sudden, sweeps 2 men from the landing while they secure equipment. The third, MacArthur, breaks protocol, abandons his coat in the panic, and runs to help. The sea takes all 3. Clean, simple, almost comforting. Except the timeline resists it. Official logs from nearby ships and the mainland record no storm of that violence during the critical days. And keepers of this experience do not break protocol together, all 3 at once, not without a reason powerful enough to override 20 years of training. Theory 2, the mind breaks first. Weeks of isolation, 3 men who did not choose each other's company, a newcomer among 2 veterans, cramped stone rooms, no horizon but gray water. Some say MacArthur, the outsider, unraveled. His tears in the log a symptom, not a footnote. A fight, a fall, a cover-up gone wrong, then 2 men left to face what they'd done, and the sea finishing what panic began. It explains the fear. It does not explain the missing coats, the set table, or 3 trained men vanishing without any physical evidence of confrontation. Theory 3. The legend. Sailors have their own answer, one older than lighthouses. Something came ashore that night. Something the logkeeper saw and could not name, only weep at. A presence the sea itself made way for. This is not evidence. It is folklore, carried by men who feared these waters long before Island Moor had a keeper. But it persists, because it fits the one thing no rational theory can explain. 3 trained, disciplined men reacting with something other than caution to something the weather logs insist wasn't there. Chapter 4. What the rock keeps. More than a century later, the most probable answer remains the least satisfying. An unusually powerful wave, born from a confluence of swell and geography, this coastline is uniquely capable of producing. Violent enough to strike far above the tide line, sudden enough to catch 2 men in the open. Duckett and Marshall likely swept from the landing. MacArthur perhaps witnessing it, perhaps rushing to help without pausing for his coat, and lost to the same water. It is the explanation science accepts. It is not the explanation that answers everything. Because no one has ever explained why a man who had faced the Atlantic for a lifetime would weep before a storm the mainland never recorded. Today, the lighthouse is automated. No keeper waits inside for a relief ship that comes too late. The light still turns, mechanical, indifferent, sweeping across water that has never given up its answer. Island Moor keeps its watch. It just doesn't explain what it saw.